Good morning and welcome to the Thursday edition of the weekly weather briefing for Central North Carolina hosted by the National Weather Service in Raleigh. My name is Barrett Smith. I'm the service hydrologist here at the National Weather Service, and I will be covering the period starting today, June the 25th, through next Wednesday, July the 1st. First, wanted to start off with just a kind of an overview or recap of some flooding that we have going on from last week's heavy rainfall. The lower Roanoke River continues to be in minor flood at Roanoke Rapids due to water being released out of the upstream reservoirs and lakes. A lot of water in those, and so there was no choice to let some of that water go. It's minor flooding downstream at Scotland Neck. Will approach flood stage, but should remain below flood stage early next week. And in Tarboro has been in moderate flood for a couple of days. Last night just fell below moderate flood stage, but still some ongoing minor flooding, and it will fall below flood stage later this evening, early on Friday. So after that, we are not expecting any river flooding over the next several days. So coming up for the next several days, the weather pattern, we have a slow-moving cold front that's located near the Virginia border today. That'll be that, along with heat and humidity, will be the impetus for some showers and thunderstorms later this afternoon. We actually have already some ongoing light rain across portions of the coastal plain of North Carolina, and that may help to limit some of the activity later today there. But nonetheless, we should see widely scattered storms. And a few of those could be strong with damaging winds and some small hail as we go into the evening hours. And then as we go into Friday and Saturday, we get a bit drier air, not a lot of change in the air mass associated with this front as it washes out. And so it'll still be plenty warm and a little bit humid, but we get some drier air aloft, and that should help to limit the chances of storms in the afternoons. May not see any on Friday, perhaps one or two on Saturday, but overall the next couple of days should be relatively storm-free. And then as we head towards Sunday and into early next week, we get into, again, a hot and humid air mass, temperatures in the upper 80s to lower 90s. Afternoon scattered showers and storms will, be most likely again Sunday into Monday and Tuesday. And then as we head towards the middle to late next week, it looks like there's an upper level trough that's going to develop along the mid-Atlantic coast and extend down towards the Carolinas. And so that should increase our activity each day of showers and storms, and it may even produce a weak area of low pressure along the coastal areas to focus some of that. Still some uncertainty in the models as to how active things will be. The pattern won't necessarily favor severe weather, but at least, climatological or above climo showers and storms each day, perhaps Wednesday, Thursday, into the latter parts of the week, and keeping temperatures at least near normal, if not maybe perhaps a little bit below normal. But again, remember, our normals are still in the 80s for this time of year. Rainfall over the next 7 days, as I mentioned, widely scattered showers and storms. Rainfall is generally going to be less than 1/4 of an inch, except for in, right in the thunderstorms today. Friday and Saturday, not expecting a lot, if anything, across the area. Going into next week, a typical summertime pattern with those scattered afternoon showers and storms. And then it'll really be towards the mid to late part of the week. Again, if we get that area of low pressure that develops along the front that will be near the coast, could focus a bit more heavier rainfall, or at least totals, around an inch for the 7 days based on that. Severe weather outlooks, we're in a marginal risk today for those showers and storms that I mentioned. The few could produce some damaging winds and small hail. We expect most of those to have some decent forward motion, so flash flooding is not really a threat with those. Some general thunder possible maybe by Saturday. This may be a bit overdone for Friday, but Saturday there could be some storms in the mountains or along the sea breeze, but most of the area will not see anything. And then as we go into next week, I mentioned that the chances of severe weather are not that great, and there's still some uncertainty in the models, but we're not expecting severe weather really outside of today. Your 8 to 14 day outlook shows basically near normal or equal chances of above or below normal temperatures, and I think that's reflecting the increasing activity middle to late next week of showers and storms and widespread cloud cover. So our temperatures generally should be around normal, and rainfall focused west of the mountains. We should generally again be in the near normal rainfall pattern for most of the 8 to 14 day time frame. There's nothing in the tropical Atlantic that the National Hurricane Center is watching specifically in terms of development at the moment. And one of the reasons for that, and I thought I would add this in here for this week, is you may have heard a lot about the Saharan air layer that's bringing dust across the tropical Atlantic and into parts of the Caribbean. It's a common occurrence to see dust coming off of Africa in the easterly flow in the tropics. And it happens, maybe once a week, perhaps sometimes twice a week. This particular instance has caught some of the media attention just because of how widespread it is and how far west it has gotten. And you can see here in the satellite imagery the kind of browns coming off of Africa and actually extending over into the Caribbean and parts of the Gulf. This is not a weather maker for us. It tends to be something that suppresses hurricane activity with all the dust in the atmosphere. It's drier. There's a lot of shear in the upper atmosphere bringing the dust across the Atlantic, and also it tends to be a warm layer of air, and so those three things are not good for hurricane activity. And so a lot of times the forecasters are watching for this dust when they're making their forecast for tropical activity. It can also enhance sunsets if you happen to be in an area where the dust makes it to. We're not expecting this dust to get into North Carolina in terms of a large amount, but perhaps there will be a little bit more in the upper layers of the atmosphere to enhance our sunsets. But again, no impact from this, but thought this would be interesting since it has made a lot of news headlines over the last couple of days. So finally, just a summary. I mentioned the river flooding that's ongoing on the Tar and Lower Roanoke rivers. Tarboro will be falling back below flood stage, and there'll be some minor flooding that continues on the Lower Roanoke well into next week. We've got a cold front that'll give us some showers and storms today. That cold front essentially washes out, and we'll see warm conditions in the 90s the next couple of days with limited showers and storms. Those 90s will continue into early next week with increasing chances of showers and storms, and then by the middle to late next week, we could see at an area of low pressure increased showers and storms and widespread cloud cover that could keep temperatures back into the 80s, but no real hazardous weather expected over the next several days. So I thank you for joining the Thursday edition of the weekly briefing, and we'll look forward to seeing folks next week.